You've been lied to. It's time to rethink what you've learned about fear. You've been told that fear is always bad and courage is always good. Not always true. So how do you decide if fear is healthy or toxic? By the end of this video, you will understand the complete difference of what healthy versus unhealthy fear is and healthy versus unhealthy courage. Unhealthy fear can show up in business, relationships, or maybe doing something for the very first time. But healthy fear protects you from getting into trouble or making really bad decisions that will hurt you in the future. I can tell you from personal experience over the last 25 years, I have dealt with my fair share of fear. I've owned 5 different companies. I'm currently the CEO at Leadline. And from starting businesses, getting married, having kids, starting a family, and experiencing success and failure along the way, it can be very debilitating. So I'm going to share with you how you can have a breakthrough and finally realize your full potential by growing wisely. Think about this. Healthy fear can be used to protect you when something is not safe or right or has the probability of a bad outcome. Courage in heavy doses can be destructive by overestimating the probability of a good outcome or ignoring bad ones. When I was in my 20s, I loved surfing. I used to surf with a few buddies, and one of them was a little bit fearless, maybe even a little bit crazy. One day, a school of sharks moved into the inlet, and we were surfing and hanging out in the shallows, and the sharks swam into about 10 inches of water. My friend starts taking the nose of his surfboard and poking at the sharks like an idiot, and soon enough, he's running out of the water, bloodied up, right? Not a good idea. That would be a good example of foolish courage. On the other hand, you can be too filled with fear when you need to have courage. So for example, my buddy Ben wanted to start his own business, and he has always made excuses on why it was not the right time and was completely terrified to take the first step. Fast forward 15 years later, he still has not started the business and regrets it to this day. So how do you decide if fear is healthy or toxic? Fear is only good when it's used to protect you and not hold you back. Healthy fear should be reframed as concern, not fear, anxiety, or even panic. Listen, unhealthy fear, it paralyzes. Healthy fear creates concern with the ability to think and act cautiously, but courageously. When you're dealing with fear, you should think about what is the worst possible outcome? And if it actually came true, could you live with that? Also keep in mind that courage means fear exists. You can't have courage without first experiencing some level of fear. Courage is moving forward while having feelings of fear. So for example, if you're afraid of heights and you get nervous waiting to get on a really tall ride like a roller coaster or something that drops you out of the air, and you're waiting in line and you're nervous and you're wringing your hands, and that thing drops you like a bad habit, but you did it anyway, you demonstrated courage in spite of experiencing fear, and that strengthened your courage muscles. So let's clarify. Healthy courage is not reckless or foolish. It's calculated, controlled emotion that's patient but moves forward. Unhealthy courage is when you act without thinking first, when you put yourself in danger and risk hurting yourself or others. Healthy fear protects you, but it does not keep you from moving forward in life. It may lead you to a different direction, but it doesn't stop you in your tracks. Unhealthy fear is when it's paralyzed and most likely a false expected outcome. You've probably heard the acronym for fear, false expectations appearing real, and that's true. So when you're afraid or experiencing fear, ask yourself these questions. Real quick, if you're getting some value out of this, hit that subscribe button. Let's get back to it. Number 1, what am I actually afraid of? Name the thing you fear. Is it the outcome? What people think? Fear of loss? Maybe rejection or something else? Naming it shrinks it because we tend to make things so much bigger than they actually are. Second question, what is the likelihood of what I'm afraid of actually going to happen or come true? Most of the things, maybe as high as 80 to 90% of the things you actually fear never even come true. So a lot of fear is unreasonable. Number 3, what 3 people can I talk to that I trust and have experience with this? Never ask just one person for advice. Make sure it's at least 2, preferably 3, because there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. When you get advice from just one person, it's really dangerous. When you get advice from 3 people, and those 3 people are in maybe different circles, you have a much better perspective and you're likely to escape getting bad advice about something that you're afraid of. So here's a few rules I like to live by. Number 1, if it doesn't feel right, don't rush. Number 2, talk it out loud with somebody because hearing yourself talk it out loud can help you gain clarity. And number 3, flex your courage muscles, but don't try to hit a new personal record, right? In other words, just Get out of your comfort zone, expand a little bit over time, and continue flexing your courage muscles. And if you haven't been doing that, it's time to start doing that. I remember when I was in my 20s and I spoke on stage for the very first time in front of maybe 100 or so people. I was pretty nervous. I had dry mouth and my hands were shaking. I was a little clammy and sweaty, and it was pretty tough, but I did it anyway. And doing that over and over again over time built strength and courage. So that way fear is no longer paralyzing me. Yeah, I get a little bit nervous when I speak in front of large crowds, but it's nothing like when I first started, and I'm pretty poised. So flex your courage muscles. And if you want to learn the mindset of the greatest athletes of all time and why they win over and over again, check out this next video.